You're tuned in to Ask the Good Doctor, live each and every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, and 10 a.m. Pacific. Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire is here to answer your questions live.
Hello, it's Wellness Wednesday. Welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire, and thank you for joining me here on Ask the Good Doctor. I am here to help you attain, maintain, and reclaim your perfect health. And we do that via the mind, body, and spirit, and issues which affect the human condition. And that is what we are going to discuss today. I have a wonderful guest for you. So get settled in, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Join me on Instagram and Facebook at Ask the Good Doctor and on Twitter at Ask the Good Doc. You know, I love it when you engage with me. Up next, we have an amazing guest joining us today. She's been here before, and it's been a while, but boy, has she been busy. I am so glad to have her back. She is an amazing educator, an academician, and I will let her tell you the rest. Welcome, Dr. Shai Butler.
Thank you, Dr. LaJoyce. It is such a pleasure to be back. I see you have been busy too.
Yeah, indeed, we have been. Yes, Dr. Shai is celebrating the release of her new book. It is called Better, Not Perfect, From Hot Mess to Life Success, A Woman's Guide to Learning, Loving, and Being Herself Unapologetically. Oh my gosh, that just makes my heart sing. Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for joining us. Let's get right into it. Unpack that title. It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. So I was on this killer drive for perfection. There were some things that happened early in my life that stayed with me to the point that I grew up feeling a lot of shame, a lot of negative self-talk. There were circumstances that happened that, where I was looked down upon and put upon. And so as such, my response to that was to say, never again. Never will I give anybody reason to talk down to me, to mistreat me, to denigrate me. And so to do that, I turn inward and say, so I am going to be perfect. I'm just going to try to do everything so perfectly so that no one will have the opportunity to criticize me again. So
Pause.
That's...
How did that work out?
Oh, well, you really want to know, read the book. But I will tell you some things, it did not work out at all. I turned inward and it built up so much anxiety, so much stress, negativity, depression, acting out, in some ways making matters worse.
Yes.
And all because I was, just been on this life quest to people please so that people wouldn't criticize,
Oh, that is an amazing revelation. For you to come to the discovery that this is what you were doing on this treadmill to people please. Your bio says that you were pregnant at 13, had a baby at 14, a college student at 16, dismissed from college at 18, and a college graduate at 23. Wow.
Yes, yes. I mean, if you want to talk about the highs and lows of life, all before 25, it was a roller coaster of up, down, up, down, up, down. Uh,
That is so, I mean, first of all, I just want to talk about when you say shame,
Mhm.
was part of the shame you experienced because you were pregnant as a teenager?
It was, I grew up in a very, very faith-filled home that was
Mhm.
also very religious. And there was a lot of orthodoxy. I grew up in a very conservative Christian household where I couldn't wear pants, I couldn't wear jewelry, I couldn't wear makeup. Skirts had to be below the knee, shirts had to be below the elbow. And so this was me in high school. This
Mm.
looking like I don't know, a Puritan Plymouth, rock just arrived, and it's it's funny. I can laugh at it now, but
Yes.
just this being out of place, not fitting in my dress and attire. Anytime I left my church building, of course, in my church building, I fit right in, but in the world itself, I was an oddity.
Mm.
And I think so that played that really impacted me as a young person who wanted desperately just to have friends and fit in and be quote unquote normal.
Well, what about your church friends?
Oh, my church friends.
Uh,
Um, mm, there were a group of girls that I hung out with at church. I will say, Dr. LaJoyce, for some in the audience who may feel or have experienced something similar, I think I lived a lifetime not really fitting in. It was just always something different about me that even when in crowds, for some reason, I just didn't fit. And I couldn't understand why. And I wanted so desperately to fit. And it
mm.
wasn't until I got older and really came into myself that you asked me about the book title,
Yes.
the learning myself so I could love myself, so that I could be myself unapologetically. It started at a very young age because I didn't know who I was.
Mm.
So it was hard to fit when you didn't know. It just didn't feel right when you were trying to be someone else just to fit into a group.
Ta.
And I've always had that. I want to be me, but who am I?
Oh,
So it was this
yes.
journey, this journey at a very young age. And I think that left me as an oddity with my church friends. And then, of course, when I got pregnant, well, every mother snatched their daughters away from me because, I don't know if you know, I mean, you study healthcare. I'm sure you realize pregnancy is a communicable disease. If you leave your daughters around other girls who are fast and get pregnant, then your daughter might wind up pregnant. So all those church friends, I pretty much lost.
Oh my.
Mhm.
And that's a very lonely road to walk as a teenager unto itself, let alone to do it alone. How many stories do we hear of those who don't even survive from that? They don't come back from it because of how they're treated and how they're judged.
Right. Even more important to talk about now when we just have young people killing themselves after being bullied at school, taking
Yep.
their lives into their own hands, and making a permanent decision over a temporary situation. And it is for that reason and for that purpose that I would say, I'm blessed to have built up resiliency early in life,
Yes.
that when the worst happens to you at 13 or 14, and that really was the worst in my community, that was the one of the worst things that could happen to a young woman.
Yes.
Um, and when that has happened to you and you find yourself in that situation and you all of the retribution or the actions that are taken against you. I mean, I would go to church and sometimes there would be sermons about teen pregnancy when I'm sitting in the back pew 7 months pregnant. And everyone in the building knew who they were talking about. I mean, it was so
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 cool.
this place where you go to be embraced. And I'm not speaking against the church because the church
No,
is actually where I
I'm just
later found wholeness, was part of my journey in terms of healing and becoming better. But it was a different time, a different era. those people, most of them are long gone.
Yeah. How about that?
But yeah.
This is the work that we like to amplify in things that help to repair the human condition, because souls are broken.
Yes.
Individuals are broken.
Yes.
And so when you say that you had this transformative experience, this healing of going from a hot mess to a life success, please share some of the tangibles with the audience who may themselves feel like their lives are a hot mess right now and have see nothing at the end of the rainbow.
Sure, I'll be happy to. So, in this drive for perfection, all the things we talked about previously, there were other things that happened in my life that I was acting out on. So I don't want you to just think it was the teenage years, because sometimes we're more apt and willing to talk about those things that happened early in life that we were able to come back from. But there were things leading up into my adulthood. One of the things I talk about in this book was this strong desire to be married. And because I was coming up on this benchmark that society puts on women of, if you're not 30, if you're not married by 30, there's something wrong with you. And I was internalizing that craziness. And I was acting crazy because of it, because there were no prospects, and I was just couldn't figure out why I couldn't draw a good man to me when there was really no lived out goodness that I was really acting upon, because what was happening inside me was so negative. I was desperate, I was afraid, I was, negative self-talk, negative talk about the men around me, so how can you draw positivity and love to you when you are acting out on negativity? So
okay, I want you to say that louder for the people in the back who probably didn't hear it. Because the negative self-talk, the things that we tell ourselves, they affect us internally deeply.
Yes. So I wanted love, and my heart wasn't even in a position to give love, because first of all, I wasn't loving myself. So how could I love someone else?
How did you flip?
Oh, how did I flip? So this is where my faith journey came back in.
Okay.
I came to the age of 31, and I realized, I say in the book, I didn't turn into a pillar of salt like the biblical figure Lot's wife when 30 had come and gone. And I said to myself, now listen, if love never comes,
okay,
if external love never comes, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Do you want to find some happiness? Do you want to find some peace? Can't you live better than you're living?
Wow.
Hasn't God called you to do something?
What?
Yeah, some things. I mean, I had to have that real heart-to-heart conversation with myself. First of all, I saw more. I saw single women who were thriving and had good lives and good jobs and good careers and seemed happy and complete. And I said, well, okay, they're making it happen, so maybe I can make it happen. And I stopped looking at, what I wanted, and start looking at what God had in store for me, what my purpose would be at this point in my life. Asked myself some really hard questions and got myself some help.
Okay.
So that helped for me finding a different type of church community, faith community, where God was less judgmental, but really more loving and more
you mean
open.
the pastor was less judgmental?
Oh, well, let's not leave it at him. Let's leave it. The pews can be, a little judgmental too. But yes, the pastor was less judgmental. The congregation was less judgmental, and it was faith centered around love.
Oh, love always wins, doesn't it?
Love always wins. Yes. And so that really helped me at that point in my life. And later I included other things like therapy and mentorship. I did actually include mentorship around that time too. But it led to the good things that later came my way, because when I stopped being so desperate, so afraid, so angry, so stressed, started to find positive self-talk, started to begin the journey of learning myself and loving myself and actually being myself, guess what? Love came. Love came in the form of a husband, and started out a boyfriend, and then through the evolution of dating, and we landed at that space, and there's a whole story about that in the book that
I can't wait to read it. I want to say this, that you said something really pivotal. Mm-hmm. You stopped being desperate.
Yeah. Yep.
Speak to desperation and what it may drive you toward.
Well, in my case, desperation drove me to dating beneath my calling, dating beneath myself. I started to do this, and maybe some women can relate to this. Maybe some people can relate to this. Some negotiating. Maybe I won't marry for love. Maybe I'll just marry for comfort. Maybe I'll go with likability. Maybe I'll marry a friend that I can just bust out a couple kids with and call it a life. It just started this negotiating.
I know.
Maybe I don't have to love him, but if he's got material wealth and can keep me stable, but I knew in my heart that's not what I wanted. But desperation caused me to start this self-negotiating about what I might settle for if love didn't show up. So that's one of the. And then I started to contort myself into whatever you needed me to be, whoever you were. So if you needed me, if you were looking for a soft-spoken, a woman who didn't cause you, who didn't really, speak up and would just sort of clean your, take care of your kids and clean your house or if you were looking for an ambitious woman who really wanted to be driven in her career and she was going to be sort of a not really a wife, but really some type of corporate merger kind of deal, then I could be that woman too. And so if you needed a real pious religious woman, well, I could be that too. So I was trying on all these roles, right? Whoever I was dating and sitting across from. I'm trying, because I'm sometimes a real good reader people. So let me see, what's he looking for? What's his? And then I found myself, but you know what? That never lasts, because who you are is going to ultimately come out. It's going to ultimately come out. And then you wonder, after 2 minutes with you, and he realized you're not as soft-spoken as you were trying to be, and you're really not interested in being a housewife. Nothing wrong with being a housewife, but that's just not what I'm called to, then of course they're going to go out and find the real deal, because that's what they want, and rightfully so.
Right.
They're rightfully so.
That's true. And I'm sure that at some point you found yourself exhausted, wearing all of these other masks that did not belong to you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And as such, I couldn't find the man that belonged to me, because but I released those that belong to others, and that's more important.
Good. Yes. Throw them back.
Yeah.
Toss them back.
Catch and release.
I'm curious about your educational journey.
Yes.
With a child at 13, you managed all of these high accolades and honors in education. How did you do it?
Oh, my mom, my dad always valued education. He achieved a bachelor's degree. My mom never finished college, but she was the wisest woman I knew on the planet. But she really valued education. And so when I got pregnant, I had to leave my high school, my Catholic high school, because you can't be pregnant in Catholic high school back then.
Not Catholic high school.
Right. Not back then. And not sure about now, but not back then. And so I left, and she put me in an alternative school for teen girls, for teen moms, and which was great because I didn't miss a beat. I stayed on track. I'd been skipped in middle school. That was back to that perfection thing, always trying to get good grades. And so I graduated high school early, started college at 16, as you said, failed out at 18. But I went on to community.
Wait, I pause. You said you failed out.
Oh, I failed out. Oh, I fell flat
Freudian?
on my face. And you know, I did because you know what? Wasn't focused. You know, took a pause on that perfection thing and just wanted to loosen up and have fun. I had just come out of quote unquote come out from under my mother's rules. And so I went through this period where I lost my daggone mind.
That
You know,
happens.
I did because I grew up in such a strict home that the first sign of a little bit of freedom that came with
Yes.
college, even though I still lived at home, I had gotten through high school. So my mother let up a little bit.
Yeah.
And when she let up a little, I let up a lot. And so I wasn't focused. I failed out at 18. And I didn't tell, but my mother never found out till I was in my 30s. She didn't, because I would put on my backpack and go out every day like I was still going to class. And you know where I was going? To work. Because, like I said, the wisest woman I knew had instilled in me, if you're not going to school, you're going to go to work.
That's right.
If you're not going to work, you're going to be doing something, you know.
Right.
So I went to work, and I worked for a couple of years until I said, you know what, you're better than this. You go back and finish what you started because it is something you want and value. And so I went back to school, and I did the unthinkable. During that time, there wasn't a lot of women going away to school and taking their 6-year-olds with them. So I actually relocated 3 hours away. I said, I came home one day. I said, Mom, guess what? I got accepted into the University at Albany in Albany, New York. And she said, what? We don't know anybody in Albany. And you know, for New York City people, if they're only watching New York City people, if it's north of Westchester, it's upstate. You know, like, so we don't know Central New York, Western New York, Northern Tier. We don't know any of that. We just know if it's north of the Bronx and Westchester, it's upstate.
That's
so
right.
I told my mother I was going to University at Albany, and I was taking my daughter with me, and she was floored. But she knew she couldn't stop me, and she didn't really want to. So I went away, and that's how I had to get focused. I had learned that about myself. So that's why when I say that we have to learn ourselves,
that's true.
It is when we learn ourselves that we can make better choices.
Yes.
So one thing I had learned from failing, and I say this to people, particularly women all the time, failing at something does not make you a failure. And that is important to know. So failing at school that time taught me that for me to get it done, I needed to change my environment. So
amen.
I did.
Amen. So the doctor in your name, Dr. Shai,
Yes.
is for
the doctorate in law and policy. I had got a bachelor's and a master's degree while I was still single. And then I said I met my soulmate. To fast forward, I met my soulmate, back in 2004. And a whirlwind dating, romance, babies. And I went back to school. More babies, because I had my one baby who was in college when my next one came along. So there are 20 years between my children, and they're all biological. 20 years. So
beautiful.
I went back to school when the boys were 5 and 6 to earn my doctorate, and I had support because I picked the right dude who actually was very encouraging about me going on this journey.
It matters. And
so I have a doctorate in law and policy from Northeastern University.
Awesome. Congratulations, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
So now you're an author as well as in your day-to-day. What tell us about the work that you do day to day?
Okay, so day to day, I talk to people that I have my profession, and then I have my vocation. So by profession, I am a vice president for advancement and external affairs at a community college. And by vocation, I am the CEO, the Chief Encouragement Officer. So I write on the professional side for a global industry publication called Higher Ed Jobs. And so I'm one of their authors, but I also now am a published author by my own right. And my first book, Better Not Perfect, and I did say first book. And I do what some call coaching, I call career and life strategists. So I work with women, executive or aspiring executives, who are looking to advance their careers and trying to find out they're recovering perfectionists like myself.
Yes.
How do I, maintain job, household, go back, get an advanced, degree? How do I do all these things and still keep it going and not fall apart? The one thing I didn't share, but it's on the back of the book, and so it's not a spoiler alert for the book, but in this pursuit of perfection and trying to have it all and balance it all, I fell into addiction as a way of coping, as my coping mechanism to try to just keep all these balls up in the air.
Yes.
And I talk about it very openly in the book. And so I really also am very transparent and work with, women executives and women aspiring executives. We talk about all these things.
Awesome. That is the cherry on the pie, because many people striving for this level of perfection will find themselves addicted to something or another. And it may not always be drugs.
No.
Sex, shopping, stealing, all kinds of things to whatever it is that makes them high. I want to applaud you for your transparency. I want to thank you for this book, Better Not Perfect, From Hot Mess to Life Success, A Woman's Guide to Learning, Loving, and Being Herself Unapologetically. I know it's a must read because I met Dr. Shai. She's a fantastic writer. She wrote a beautiful article for higher ed that she just said, the higher ed website.
Higher ed jobs.
.com. And as a professor, that comes to my email, and I went stalking her.
She didn't have to stalk too hard. When I said Dr. LaJoyce is trying to reach me, I'll answer her call right back.
I want to thank you for being here. Thank you so much. You always have a seat at this table to come and share anything that you're doing. We welcome you. Thank you very much. And we can't wait to delve into your book. Everyone run out and get it. The link is down below. Thank you, Dr. Shai. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. I want to thank my team, IW supervising producer, Christopher Green, technical producer, and Chris Brown, announcer. And remember to let your eyes shine, cut back on the wine, get good food fast, and go easy on the greasy. Until next time, I'm Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire, here to help you attain and maintain your perfect health. Let's do it again next week, okay? God bless you.